When I look back at my life, there was a time when I tried to change for everyone else. I tried to fit in, to meet expectations, to please others, to gain approval. And every time I did that, I felt smaller. Every time I shaped myself into what someone else wanted me to be, I lost a little more of who I really was. I realized that no matter how much I gave, no matter how much I tried to be what others needed, there would always be another demand, another opinion, another weight on my shoulders. And that's when the truth hit me. I didn't need to change for anyone else. I needed to change for myself. There's a difference between external validation and internal fulfillment. When you live your life based on what others think, you're living their script, not yours. But the day you decide to shift, the day you choose to evolve not because someone told you to, but because you've had enough of the old story, that's the day transformation begins. That's when power is born inside you. Changing for yourself is not about being selfish. It's about being honest. It's about recognizing that you are the only one who has to live with every thought in your head, every habit you build, every choice you make. And if those choices aren't aligned with who you truly want to be, then you're living a life that doesn't belong to you. When I changed myself for myself, I stopped waiting for permission. I stopped waiting for applause. I stopped waiting for someone to say, "You're good enough now." Instead, I told myself I am worthy, I am capable, I am powerful, and I'm not changing to fit in. I'm changing to break free. That shift required courage. Because changing for yourself means you might lose people. It means you might walk away from relationships that drain you, habits that numb you, environments that shrink you. It means choosing discomfort today for freedom tomorrow. It means saying no to the old version of yourself so the new one can breathe. And here's what I learned. The moment you decide to change for yourself, the world starts to respond differently. People see your energy shift. Opportunities appear. You attract people who respect your authenticity instead of those who manipulate your insecurities. You stop being a follower of expectations and start becoming the architect of your destiny. Every single one of us has two choices: stay the same because it's comfortable, or grow because it's necessary. The old me was trapped by fear, but the new me chose freedom over fear, growth over comfort, authenticity over approval. And that choice didn't just change my circumstances. It changed my identity. I changed myself for myself, not because I had to, but because I deserved to, and so do you. When you really think about it, most people spend their lives trying to be accepted. From the time we are children, we are trained to seek approval. Parents want us to behave a certain way. Teachers want us to learn a certain way. Society wants us to conform to a certain way. And what happens is, we grow up carrying this weight of trying to meet standards that were never ours in the first place. We change our clothes because someone said that's what looks good. We change our voice because someone said that's how we should sound. We even change our dreams because someone said they're not realistic. And while we might get applause for a while we might get people's nods of approval, deep inside there's an emptiness that never goes away. Because no matter how much validation we get, it doesn't fill the void if it's not who we really are. That's why true transformation begins when you stop living for approval and start living for authenticity. Approval is a moving target. The second you achieve it, it shifts. The people you're trying to impress today may be gone tomorrow, and suddenly you're left questioning who you are again. You can spend your whole life chasing likes, attention, compliments, and acceptance, but it will never satisfy you because it's never stable. Authenticity, on the other hand, is unshakable. When you live authentically, you no longer have to put on a mask. You no longer have to remember who you pretended to be yesterday. You show up as yourself, raw and real, and that creates a kind of power that nobody can take from you. The moment you stop asking, "What will they think of me?" and start asking, "What do I think of me?" everything changes. That shift moves you from being controlled by external forces to being guided by your own truth. And it doesn't mean people will always agree with you. In fact, some will resist it. Some will criticize you. Some will question you. Some might even leave your life altogether. But that's okay, because the people who truly belong in your life will be drawn to your authenticity. They'll respect you not for who you pretended to be, but for who you really are. When you stop living for approval, you gain freedom. Freedom to try new things, freedom to make mistakes, freedom to pursue what excites you even if others don't understand it. You give yourself permission to fail without shame and permission to succeed without guilt. You stop measuring your worth based on how many people cheer you on and start measuring it based on how aligned you feel with your own values and vision. That's where real self-confidence comes from, not from being liked, but from knowing you're being true to yourself. Living authentically also changes how you handle challenges. When you live for approval, every setback feels like rejection. You begin to wonder, what will people think if I fail? And that fear holds you back from taking risks. But when you live authentically, setbacks are simply feedback. They're part of your growth, not a reflection of your worth. You can keep moving forward because you're not tied to anyone else's scoreboard. You're playing your own game by your own rules, and that game is the only one worth winning. You also start to attract opportunities you would have missed before. When you live for approval, you often hide your real strengths and passions out of fear of judgment. But when you step into authenticity, you showcase the truth of who you are. People notice. Opportunities flow because the world responds to honesty and passion in ways it never responds to masks and pretenses. The right doors open not because you're forcing them, but because you're finally aligned with who you're meant to be. The irony is that when you stop chasing approval, you often end up gaining more respect. People admire those who have the courage to be themselves, even if they don't always agree with them. They might not say it out loud, but deep inside, everyone wishes they had that kind of freedom. When you embody it, you become a mirror showing them it's possible for them too. That is why true transformation doesn't start when the world accepts you. It starts when you accept yourself. It starts when you stop bending your identity to fit expectations and start building your identity on truth. It starts when you realize you were never meant to be a copy of someone else's idea of success. But the fullest expression of your own potential changing for yourself is not about shutting the world out or ignoring everyone around you. It's about finally realizing that the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. Too many people confuse self-change with selfishness. They think if you focus on yourself, you're being inconsiderate, you're being self-absorbed, you're being egotistical. But the truth is, you cannot give to the world what you don't have inside of you. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't love deeply if you don't know how to love yourself first. You can't serve fully if you're constantly betraying who you are just to keep everyone else comfortable. Real change, the kind that lasts, comes when you stop trying to mold yourself into what everyone else expects, and you start choosing to evolve because you know you deserve better. There comes a point where you look at your life and realize you've been making decisions out of guilt, out of obligation, out of fear of disappointing people. You say yes when you want to say no. You shrink when you want to rise. You stay silent when your voice aches to be heard. And then you wake up one day and feel disconnected from yourself. You wonder how you got so far from the person you truly are. That's when the choice appears in front of you. Keep betraying yourself or decide to change for you. When you decide to change for yourself, it doesn't mean you stop caring about others. It means you finally stop sacrificing your truth for their comfort. It means you build a foundation of respect for your own needs, your own values, and your own dreams. There is a freedom that comes with self-change that no external achievement can match. When you're chasing approval, the wins feel temporary, like they fade as soon as the applause ends. But when you change for yourself, every victory feels permanent because it's rooted in alignment. Even small steps feel powerful because they belong to you. They're not borrowed from someone else's vision. That freedom allows you to live with less resentment, less pressure, less exhaustion. You stop carrying the burden of living a double life, pretending to be someone in public while secretly wishing you could be someone else in private. The inner conflict begins to dissolve because the person you show the world is the same person you see in the mirror, and the impact of changing for yourself extends far beyond you. When you respect yourself enough to grow, when you honor yourself enough to evolve, you actually give more to others. Because now, your energy is real, your love is genuine, your boundaries are clear. Instead of giving out of obligation, you give out of overflow. People can feel the difference. They can sense when you're living in authenticity versus when you're operating out of guilt. And ironically, the more you change for yourself, the more of an inspiration you become to the people around you. You stop teaching them to conform and start showing them how to be courageous. You stop modeling burnout and start modeling balance. Your personal transformation becomes a silent permission slip for others to do the same when you make changes for yourself. You also begin to see challenges differently. Instead of resenting obstacles, you see them as opportunities to build the life you want. Because you're not climbing someone else's ladder, you're not chasing someone else's dream, you're building your own. That gives you the resilience to keep going when things get hard. It gives you the strength to say, "This is worth it." Because it's not for show, it's not for applause, it's not for anyone else's satisfaction. It's for you. That reason is powerful enough to pull you through the darkest seasons, because when your reason is internal, it can't be taken away. Too many people wait for permission to change. They wait for others to say it's okay to grow, it's okay to set boundaries, it's okay to want more. But the moment you understand that you don't need permission, you create a shift. You step out of the prison of expectations and into the space of self-trust. And in that space, life feels lighter, choices feel clearer, the weight of living for others falls away. That's when you understand that changing for yourself isn't selfish at all. It's one of the most generous things you can do, because by becoming whole, you give the world the best version of you. Growth requires letting go of people, habits, and environments that keep you small. One of the hardest things in life is recognizing that not everything and not everyone is meant to go with you on your journey of becoming. We grow up believing that loyalty means holding on no matter what, that comfort means safety, and that familiarity means belonging. But sometimes the very people you love the most, the routines you've repeated the longest, and the environments you've stayed in because they feel secure are the exact things holding you back from who you're meant to be. It's painful to accept that some relationships, no matter how close they once were, start to drain you instead of strengthen you. It's difficult to face the fact that some habits you rely on for relief are the very ones robbing you of your potential. It's uncomfortable to admit that the place you call home might also be the cage that keeps you from spreading your wings. There's a truth about growth that people don't always tell you. It's lonely at first. When you decide to change, when you decide to rise, when you decide you won't stay stuck in the same cycle, you automatically create distance from the people and patterns that are content with staying the same. And that distance feels heavy because it challenges your sense of belonging. You might feel guilt for outgrowing people, for wanting more, for refusing to settle. But growth demands that you choose expansion over comfort, evolution over stagnation. The longer you hold on to what keeps you small, the longer you delay the life you're capable of living are especially powerful. They build your days, and your days build your life. If your habits are destructive, even in small ways, they accumulate into chains that tie you down. The late night distractions, the endless scrolling, the avoidance of difficult conversations, the procrastination. All of these habits seem harmless until you realize they are stealing the life you said you wanted. Growth requires that you not only let go of toxic people, but also release toxic habits. And that release is not about depriving yourself, it's about liberating yourself. It's about saying, I deserve habits that build me, not break me. Environments also shape who you become. The places you spend time in either inspire you or drain you, either challenge you or limit you. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, by limitation, by people who don't believe in anything greater than what they see right now, it's almost impossible to grow into your full potential. You start adopting their language, their beliefs, their patterns, and before you know it, you're trapped in a mindset that doesn't even belong to you. Changing your environment doesn't always mean moving cities or countries. Sometimes it's as simple as changing the rooms you spend time in, the people you give access to your energy, the media you consume, and the atmosphere you create in your own home. Letting go is not easy. We are wired to cling to the familiar, even when the familiar is hurting us. We convince ourselves that staying is safer than leaving, that holding on is easier than releasing. But every time you let go of what keeps you small, you make room for something greater to enter. Every time you release a draining relationship, you create space for deeper connections. Every time you quit a habit that numbs you, you open the door to habits that energize you. Every time you step away from an environment that limits you, you put yourself in position to find one that expands you. Growth is not about addition first, it is about subtraction. Removing what no longer serves you creates the foundation for what will, and in that process, you learn something powerful. You don't lose people, habits, or places by growing. You simply reveal who and what was never meant for the future version of you. Those who truly love you will rise with you. The habits that align with your best self will naturally stick. The environments that nurture growth will feel like home. Everything else will fall away, not because you are cold or ungrateful, but because you are no longer willing to sacrifice your potential for comfort. When you change for yourself, you shift your energy, and the world responds differently. Everything in life is energy. The way you speak, the way you carry yourself, the way you think, the way you act. It all sends signals into the world, and those signals attract experiences, people, and opportunities that match that vibration. When you're living for approval, your energy carries hesitation, insecurity, and a quiet plea for acceptance. People sense it, even if they can't explain it. They treat you the way you treat yourself, and if you undervalue you yourself, the world reflects that undervaluation back to you. But the moment you decide to change for yourself, you begin to radiate a different frequency. You no longer move through life asking, "Am I good enough for them?" Instead, you move through life declaring, "I am becoming the best version of me." That shift alone begins to rearrange the way the world interacts with you. Energy doesn't lie. You can say the right things, you can dress the right way, you can even act confident. But if deep down you're still tied to the need for validation, that energy leaks out. People can sense when you're desperate for approval versus when you're grounded in self-respect. When you truly change for yourself, your energy becomes more certain, more focused, more magnetic. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop pleading and start commanding, not because you're arrogant, but because you're aligned. The world always notices alignment. Opportunities that used to pass you by suddenly pause. Doors that once seemed locked begin to crack open. Conversations shift in your favor, and the people who meet you feel that they are encountering someone who knows their worth. Think about the times you've met someone who walked into a room, and you could feel their presence before they even spoke. That's energy. It's not always about being the loudest or the most outgoing. Sometimes it's the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly who they are and doesn't need external applause to validate it. When you change for yourself, you develop that kind of presence. You don't have to demand attention. Your authenticity naturally commands it. People gravitate toward those who are unapologetically themselves because it gives them permission to do the same. Your energy becomes an invitation for others to rise, and this shift doesn't just affect how others see you. It also affects how you see the world. When you're stuck in the pattern of living for approval, the world feels heavy, competitive, and judgmental. You see criticism everywhere. You interpret silence as rejection, and you measure your worth by other people's responses. But when you change for yourself, your perspective transforms. You stop seeing rejection as an attack and start seeing it as redirection. You stop looking at others as competition and start recognizing that everyone has their own path. You stop chasing people who don't value you and start attracting those who resonate with your authenticity. Your inner world changes, and so the outer world reflects that shift. The relationships in your life begin to evolve. People who once drained your energy may fall away because they no longer match your frequency. At first, this can feel like loss, but in reality, it's space being cleared for the right people to enter. The ones who stay or arrive are those who see you, respect you, and align with the person you're becoming. Your energy creates boundaries without you even having to say a word. You don't have to constantly defend your worth because your energy speaks it for you. That's the power of changing for yourself. It's not about forcing the world to notice you. It's about shifting yourself so deeply that the world has no choice but to respond differently. Even opportunities begin to show up in unexpected ways. When you're aligned, you recognize doors that you used to overlook. You notice possibilities where before you only saw limitations. And because your energy is rooted in authenticity, people trust you more. They sense that you are real, that you are not hiding, that you are committed to growth, and trust is magnetic. It draws the right mentors, the right friends, the right partners, and the right circumstances into your orbit. What once felt like struggle begins to feel like flow, not because life became easier, but because you stopped fighting against yourself. The world is always responding to you. The question is, what kind of energy are you sending out? When you change for yourself, you shift the entire signal you're broadcasting. And as that signal changes, so does the way the world mirrors you back. The greatest power you have is the decision to write your own story, not live someone else's. Every day, most people wake up and step into a script they didn't write. They follow routines that were handed down to them. They chase goals that were never truly theirs. They act out roles that others assigned to them long before they even realized they had a choice. Family, society, culture, peers, all of them offer a version of how you should live, and it's easy to get swept into that current until one day you look around and wonder whose life you're actually living. The truth is, the pen has always been in your hand. You've always had the ability to create your own story, but for as long as you allow others to dictate your choices, you'll never feel the power of authorship in your life. Deciding to write your own story doesn't mean rejecting every piece of advice or disregarding every influence. It means filtering everything through the lens of your own values and vision. It means asking, does this feel true for me? Does this align with who I want to become? Rather than blindly following the expectations placed on you. When you start making decisions from that place of ownership, you begin to feel a shift. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You stop waiting for life to happen to you and begin directing where your life goes. That single decision, to claim the authorship of your story, creates a level of clarity and strength that no outside approval could ever give you. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who inspire you. What makes them so compelling isn't just their success. It's the fact that they had the courage to write their own script. They refused to be confined by what was normal or expected, and they chose instead to carve a path that reflected who they truly were. That power isn't reserved for a select few. It's available to anyone willing to claim it. The only requirement is courage. The courage to stop borrowing someone else's pen and start writing with your own. Courage to face criticism, to endure misunderstanding, to walk away from what doesn't fit the story you want to live. Because when you choose authorship, you can't avoid resistance. Not everyone will agree with your story. Not everyone will understand it, and that's perfectly fine. It's not their story to understand. It's yours to live. There's a quiet kind of suffering that comes from living a story that isn't yours. You might look successful on the outside, you might even be celebrated, but inside there's a restlessness, a feeling of being trapped in a narrative that doesn't excite you. That's why so many people who seem to have it all still feel unfulfilled. They followed the script society gave them but forgot to ask themselves if that script matched their own heart. Writing your own story frees you from that quiet despair. It reconnects you with your passions, your strengths, your truth. Suddenly, life feels meaningful not because it's easy or perfect, but because it's yours. Even the struggles feel different because they're struggles you chose on a path you own when you claim the power to write your story. You stop fearing failure in the same way. Failure loses its sting because it's no longer a sign that you fell short of someone else's expectations. It's simply part of the process of creating your own path. Every setback becomes a plot twist. Every lesson becomes part of the character development, and every obstacle becomes a chapter in your growth. You understand that the story isn't ruined by challenges, it's enriched by them. That perspective alone allows you to keep moving forward when others give up, because you're not living by someone else's script of perfection. You're living by your own script of progress. The most liberating moment in life is when you realize you don't have to keep repeating the story you were given. You can rewrite it at any time. You can decide that the chapters of doubt, fear, and limitation don't define the rest of the book. You can pick up the pen today and choose a different ending than the one others predicted for you. That choice belongs to you and only you. And in that choice lies the greatest power you will ever know. The power to live a life that is truly, unapologetically, your own.